we kind of merged with the Second Amendment, and we merged with the Second Amendment and went over and started talking a little bit about religious liberty just now, and I did that. That was subtle on my part, but I do want to jump into the religious liberty debate, and then next we're going to talk about law enforcement. So that's going to be the next area, and that's important to me for several reasons. We've all followed the Kentucky issue. Kim Davis, y'all familiar with that? The lady who refused to issue the marriage certificate with her name on it. There's a gentleman, I believe, in Colorado who makes cakes for a living for weddings, and because of religious objection, didn't bake a cake for a same-sex couple, was actually ordered by the court to do so, threatened by the state to be fined, and has to report every couple of months. I've heard another story of a wedding planner running a chapel being required to, violate their personal religious convictions. Now, the same-sex case in Obergefell this past summer has implications for a lot of people at a lot of different levels, both people for and against the decision. But what I want to talk to you about is, and if you're the President of the United States, there's going to be some serious cases coming down, because I think the Solicitor General, when arguing that case, when asked by one of the Supreme Court justices, said, when asked about the tax-exempt statuses of religious organizations, like a Christian university or a church who doesn't want to participate in a same-sex ceremony, could their tax-exempt status be challenged? And the Solicitor General was forced to admit that, yes, that could be an issue. Could you expound on that, and what do you think you should do as President to protect that?
What I recall him saying was something to the effect that that's not in front of you right now. It could be that case. It was a pretty chilling, and some of the opinions in the majority also made reference to that. There was not a clear protection of what has been called the first freedom, which is religious conscience. So the First Amendment is, this powerful tool of liberty. And religious freedom, when the framers created the Constitution, was front and center. I mean, it was a key element of the protections from government. And so I think a big country like ours, a big, tolerant, noble country like ours, ought to be able to figure out how to not discriminate against people, in this case, not discriminate based on sexual orientation, but allow people to have enough space to act on their conscience. There are candidates running for office, not in my party, that have basically said, you can have your faith, but you can have it only like in your house or in the church pews. You can't have religious conscience. You can't act on your faith. Well, think of the noble things that take place when people act on their conscience based on their faith. They heal the sick. They take care of the homeless. They act on their love for their fellow man that is grounded in their relationship with Jesus, or other religions that do the same thing. And so religious conscience means that you should have that space. In the case of the clerk of the court, she should have the right to, based on her conscience, not sign that document. There ought to be some accommodation. And the person, based on the ruling that you said, the couple that went to get their license, they should have the right to be able to do that. A baker, if someone walked into a bakery and said, I'd like to buy a cake, and the owner of the bakery said, no, I'm not going to serve you because you're gay, that's wrong. But if that gay couple comes into the bakery and says, I want you to participate in my wedding, that's a different subject. It's a question of conscience, and I don't view it as an either-or thing. I think we should make sure that we protect rights of people embedded in law, that there shouldn't be discrimination. But we should never abandon one of the core values of our country that is so extraordinary and so special, which is the right of conscience. Because it does make us different, and it protects our freedoms, by the way, and it also lessens the demands on government. This is something that is essential on who we are as a nation.
You made a very interesting distinction here when you said a gay person coming in to buy a cake as opposed to a gay couple wanting to get married, and I thought I hadn't heard that distinction. That's very interesting.
And unfortunately, the courts in these states are ruling against what I just described. In other words, they're saying you're forced to participate in the wedding. And people are shutting the photographer in New Mexico, I think, is an example of that, the baker in Washington State. That's wrong. There should be protections for people. And I don't, in this administration, I don't think that will be happening. You look at the Little Sisters of the Poor, a religious order that takes care of the poor. That's all they do. And they're being forced now to, for their employees to have contraceptive mandated. And the Obama administration has tried to provide some protection of this ruling by saying that the insurance companies are mandated, not the religious order. Well, that's foolhardy. I mean, the religious order should have the ability to not provide contraceptives if it goes against a deeply held view, which it does as a Catholic.
So what I heard you say is you believe that there is room in our society to accommodate the First Amendment religious, views of individuals while protecting the now court-given right to same-sex marriage.
So, General, the solution could be in Kentucky, they found a temporary solution.
Right.
But the real solution is for the Kentucky legislature to change the law to say that that another person, can sign that wedding certificate.
And tax-exempt status of religious organizations should be protected.
Absolutely, completely that way. And that's the next threat. I mean, that I think is the place where the coercive powers of government will move to be able to change behavior. And it's, you think about Catholic Charities. There are many other great groups, but Catholic Charities does extraordinary work all across this country. And in many places now, threatened by lawsuits, they're pulling back. And people suffer because of that. This is the end result of this, is that there are people that are hungry, people that are homeless, people that have inflicted with disease, sick elders. Catholic Charities plays a huge role in it. They can't play that role, and it isn't altogether true that that void is filled by other groups.